just get really excited at crazy cough. I can't help myself.
Sorry,
Right,
we're ready to go.
Let's
Let's do it on our private chats. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, you ready? Hello, thank you so much for watching. I'm Maria Jones from One of Nine, and today we're in Scotland, and we're with Eden and Thomas McCourt. Another couple we've come to see, where my sweet friend Eden is actually English, and so we've roped in Thomas because he's the authentic Scotsman. So thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming. Yeah.
When did you get married?
We got married almost 2 months ago, and it doesn't feel like 2 months. It feels like 1 week. Just kidding, 10 years. No, it's been great. No, it actually has though.
And where did you meet?
So we met we actually initially met on Project Truth. And that must have been, gosh, 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago now. Thomas came for one night for one of the socials with his sister. Yeah, so you'd seen me at the March 5 earlier that year, and I didn't notice him, but he noticed me and he thought, oh, okay, like, she looks cool. And we started talking after a Afternoon for Life that his mum and auntie organised up in Dundee. I just started working for SPC Scotland at that time, so I went up there to give a talk, and he came along to the talk, and I saw him in the crowd, and I was like, oi, oi. And then we started talking from that, really.
So there's a lot of acronyms here.
Acronyms.
Is
Yeah, no, that's the right word.
But when I met Peter, it was SPUC, HGPI. What are these different ones? HLI, FLI?
So
all these
we
different ones.
have
They're all pro-life movements.
All pro-life movements. So we've
Give her the drink, she'll love you then.
Yeah.
Let the drink.
So SPUC is the Society for the Protection of Unborn Children, and I moved up to Glasgow to work for them. But there are other like pro-life organisations like Right to Life, which is RTL, and then Alliance of Pro-Life Students, which is APS, and then you've got, I can't think of any others.
MLF.
March for Life, yeah.
So you saw Eden, you thought, oh, interested.
So what happened was, me, my mum and my auntie went to that March for Life. Yeah, so it was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And this was my first time ever even experiencing the March for Life. I didn't expect for there to be so many young people there, right? I just kind of thought, oh, it's going to be a bunch of people like my grandma's age and my mum's age, whatever. That sounds so bad.
But you wanted to go from Scotland down to London.
Yeah, well, I was living in London at the time anyway. So I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'll go and see what it's all about. So then I went and saw all the Project Truth lot in their like hoodies and outfits and that. And then I saw Eden and was like, oh, she looks she doesn't look like she should be here kind of thing. Just not you, but all those group of young people kind of thing. So that was the first time I saw her.
From that, make a move.
Basically,
you didn't make a move. I
No.
I made the move.
No, I just didn't have to try very hard because
I made the
obviously
moves.
no. Basically, I met her at an Afternoon for Life up in Dundee that she was doing a talk at. As Eden said, my auntie and my mum organised it.
It's so funny. I've actually given up breastfeeding in the day for ages, except for when I do a talk. Except for when we do a chat.
Ever?
She want me?
Scares
Yes,
me
she does.
so much. Fight. With breastfeeding, that's my biggest fear. Is gone.
Yeah, but it's kind of not quite like that anymore.
Okay, that's
somehow.
good.
Yeah. It's still like, oh, Audrey.
Yeah.
But it's not okay. But it's not as sort of life and death.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that scares me so much. Yeah, honestly, and they are sharp.
But yeah,
she's
no,
quite happy
she's
there. She's like,
Yeah, and there's so much training before they get teeth that like they kind of, it's not the place.
Come on,
Thomas
Peter.
saw that gorgeous curly hair and thought.
Well, first of all,
did you fancy all the people in Project Truth?
it was just Eden that I clapped eyes on. At that Afternoon for Life, I basically saw Eden there. I didn't know she was giving a talk, and I thought, oh, that's a girl who I saw at that March for Life and at Project Truth. Should be interesting, kind of thing. And then
Would you say, there's that girl I saw?
Jemima, go out the room or keep holding my phone here.
I would never admit to myself that I fancied her that quickly.
come on.
I would just say there's that girl I saw.
defo fancied me.
Well, that's beside the point. Then I was like, oh, hi, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. she gave her talk. I was very, very, very impressed. I remember actually being in the audience, right? And I can see my mum at the side trying to get my attention. I was like, what's she doing? And so I kind of glimpsed over at my mum, and she goes like, God, she's like, like, go speak to her afterwards, like kind of thing. So I was like,
Good
oh,
mum.
mum. Yeah, well, she kind of, she set it up, didn't
Mums
she,
and
really?
dads sometimes need to help these situations. Maybe it's just the final nudge. You're just like, now my mum's telling me I'm gonna do it. Then
I was very obedient to my parents, a good son. So I just thought,
I don't believe a word of it. Did get chatting after.
What was your mum like? Was she a look? I know you fancy her.
I think she.
Walter wants all the juice and you're giving no juice.
Yeah.
How much did you fancy me on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm not disclosing any of that information. That's private. Don't put my heart on my sleeve like that, Peter. I'm sorry to
It
disappoint
was
you.
100 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Is your mother quite forward with you then? She would be.
Oh yeah.
You need to go over there quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
snap her up.
She's
If she's watching this now, what's the kind of thing she'd be saying at the screen? Oh, you did like her. Oh, I know you did.
She'd be like, I knew from the very moment that you liked her, and yeah, you can thank me later.
You know that Eden's pro-life, and you're Catholic. You don't necessarily know she's Catholic, or did you?
No, I did.
Did you?
I think I did because I had you on Facebook and I saw that you shared a lot of Catholic.
And would that have been an
views and
interest to you? That was something you thought,
definitely.
yeah.
I think at that point I'd been out with girls who weren't Catholic and it just wasn't very good. But so at that point I was actively looking for someone who was Catholic. And so when I saw that really intrigued me.
Yeah, we can grab like around the country, around the world, and just feel like you're maybe the only one that is pro-life and you're the only one that's Catholic, or your family's just the one that does it like this. But actually, this new pro-life movement is just packed with young people.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
exciting. March for Life.
Yeah,
is
there's so many young
cracking
people.
event.
And the thing is as well, I think there are way more than we actually even realise just who
100%.
come to the March for Life. There are tons all around the country who might not even make it to the March for Life. But it's funny because I think I know every single pro-life person around the country, and then I'm still seeing people pop up and I'm like, oh, you're really heavily involved and I don't know about you. But then people pop up all the time. I'm like, oh my goodness,
do you find that
there's
encouraging?
tons. Yeah, absolutely. Which I think is super important in this day and age because we're a very youth-focused generation.
Right, so you guys got chatting 3 years ago. Or when did you find out that she was... So you sort of knew she was Catholic. Did you then have initial chats about that? About, okay, how are we going to do this?
We had that chat quite early on, didn't
Oh,
we?
yeah.
Before we started.
We spoke about everything before we started actually going out. So we were
Oh, I like that.
friends for a month, and we both knew that we liked each other, but we were just kind of sussing the water, making sure we all had the foundations. And it was really nice because I was raised traditional Catholic, and Thomas's family and him had actually just started going the year or 2 years previous.
Yeah, it was 2 years, I think it was.
So it was nice because it was very surprising as well because Thomas doesn't really look like a typical trad guy. Do you know what I mean? He kind of wears the baggy jumpers, the very urban hip hop. He's got his little piercing and everything like that. And so it was nice to see somebody who looked like an atheist, but who was actually very anti-abortion and trad Catholic.
Atheist pro-birds have the best sense of fashion.
Do
I'm
they?
telling you, yeah.
Spoke about all of that before you started dating.
Yeah, even down to the nitty gritty,
What about a chaste relationship? Did you talk about that sort of
Yeah.
stuff?
That was a
before?
given,
I know
I
that's
think.
could be a given, but it's maybe a tricky conversation to broach.
I think it was easier because we both knew we were both Catholic at that point. I think, like Eden said, it was kind of a given that was going to be our viewpoint. So then when it came to actually having the conversation, it was kind of easy. Do you not think it was kind
I
of
don't
easy?
even remember having a conversation about it. I just remember it was just from the get-go, that was just how it was. And there was, I must say, Thomas has always been extremely, like insanely good at boundaries, self-control, even stuff like near occasion of sin, everything like that. He's always been amazing at. So from the get-go, he set that standard, and yeah.
And I think that's really important, isn't it? That the near occasion of sin, like
Just as dangerous.
the occasion of sin is just so, it's too close.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking of the near occasion of sin. So
Yeah.
what sort of things would you maybe have done to avoid getting into that?
So we
near
would
occasion?
try not to be in the flat like alone together, because my flatmates have been coming and going. So even if like one of them was out, we'd try to just kind of go out to the park and do stuff. Wouldn't really stay over. He would stay at like the chaplaincy, or there's a young Catholic lad across the road who he would ask to go and stay with.
Because Thomas, were you living still in Dundee?
I was living in Dundee up until only about a month. Well, just before we got married, like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So, and even then, like when I started work in Glasgow, staying with the guy
Across
down
the
the
road,
road,
yeah.
either that or when he couldn't have me, I'd just kind of travel like from
Back and forth
Dundee.
every morning to go to work, and then
But then I'd gotten
Go
used
back.
to it at that point.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Because that's like really when it gets to the point where you just think,
yeah.
you know, like the temptation of just thinking, oh, do you know what, if you could just sleep on the sofa.
I think with stuff like chastity, it really does take two people. Like you see a lot of girls and guys who are like, oh yeah, you know, he supports me, like I want to wait for my, oh, I don't want to do anything, and he's really supportive of that, and he says, you know, completely my decision, he respects that. But does he really? Because if you said tomorrow, like, oh yeah, let's do this, he'd be like, okay. So I think it's really, really like important that both are on the same wavelength and both are actively striving to maintain a chaste relationship, because otherwise it's very, very easy, because it is like really difficult. So unless you're
And
both
especially
willing to
ultimately
work,
you love each other, you want to
Yeah.
get married, you want to be doing all of that giving,
yeah,
and so you are just in that really kind of, and it can be without realising, that kind of dangerous position of,
yeah,
you could so easily slip down that.
so easily. It's really, really easy.
I'm not an adventure girl, but I have to just go with it because the kids love it. Just climb down. Steep, bit of land, and then we've come to this gorgeous opening. It's so lovely. I'll just get a little jumper on.
Lonnie, how was getting down?
Really fun! I had to help everybody because I was the bravest.
Couldn't have done it without you.
So nice.
You just don't get as many chances of somebody having the right skills, like Lani, to help everybody get down, and Eddie. I said the Guardian Angel prayer several times, and then I always roll into St. Michael prayer after that. But look at them, they're so happy. Good girl, Audrey.
I can't move.
Eden, had you had any like secular boyfriends or people,
Yeah.
guys that weren't Catholic in the past?
Yes. Yeah, no, I had quite a few people.
I'm still alive.
Oh, most of them. Yeah, it was really difficult. But you know, you have that kind of savior complex. Well, I know that I had a savior complex where like I'd meet someone and I'd be like, oh, you know, they really need me. Oh yeah, they really, you know, I could be like a joy in their life. I could bring them to the church and stuff like that. You know, I could help them with X, Y, and Z. And then it just doesn't work because you can't really change people or want to go into a relationship like with the intention to change. But then I'd see, yeah, I just.
So would you do the thing where you'd maybe have the chastity talk with them and say,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you know, we're not doing the sex before marriage,
Yeah, we're not
and then
doing X, Y,
and then they
Z.
might be like, yeah, I really support you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then but then in practice it's
In
tough.
practice, it's totally
Yeah.
different.
Did you make a conscious decision then to think after like that kind of experience, and you as well, Thomas, to think actually, I definitely want a Catholic
Yeah.
husband,
Yeah,
wife.
after my I was like, that is it. Like, there is no way that I'm not dating somebody who has X, Y, and Z. I literally wrote a list, whittled it down to the 5 top most important qualities. The top actually being like anti-porn. Because like that cannot be any issue in the relationship. That can't be lingering. Like, I just cannot deal with that at all. And I thought, oh, this is a really unrealistic list.
Or an interesting list for conversation.
Yes, yeah, honestly. And wrote my list.
Oh yeah, what are the other things on the list?
So I had.
Is that why Thomas has got so many aunties on the wall?
That's exactly why. I knew you would catch on eventually.
Was like anti-porn, willing to work for a good relationship, and a chaste one, somebody who is hardworking, somebody who wants lots of kids, and somebody who is respectful of me, and with that, it's kind of like somebody who doesn't, change when he's around his friends or his family, compared to how he is with you. And the other one was faithful.
Sounds like you've had a lot of experience before to make these decisions. Yes. Like, right, okay.
But my mum's watching, so I'm going to be like... Or even seeing other people's relationships, do you know what I mean? Like, just watching and seeing what happens and seeing what these people can... Like, what people can do to one another is terrifying.
Would you say you've learned more from the disasters of other people's lives or more from the joy of other people's lives?
Disastrous, but my life, not other people's lives. Yeah.
Because I think in life, I'm more that was sort of just like go with the flow. Like, I had these thoughts, but it wasn't so absolutely definite. When I met Peter, he was really like, I want to marry someone that is not going to be this and is not going to be blah, 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 whatever he might have his opinions on. Yeah. And I was like, wow, you really thought this out. This is a good idea to think it out, because you can just fall into things otherwise, and then just, fall in love with the next person in front of you. And then things can get tricky. And it's not just tricky for you, like, it's tricky for them.
Yeah. And it only causes like upset and heartache on both sides. But it's funny because I go into schools and I give school talks on chastity to like teenagers around England and Scotland. And it's really interesting because there's an exercise that we do with them. It's like, what do you look for in a future spouse? And there's a set few things that almost every single person who does that thing says. Stuff like confidence, faithfulness, loyalty, hardworkingness. Guys, these are the things you need to remember. Write this down. Make a list of 20 things, whether they're just like superficial, like brown hair, 6'4", and then whittle it down to the 5 most fundamental things that person has to have, and do not go any lower. Don't settle for anything less.
Thomas, you had some secular birds as well.
Yeah, I had my fair share of.
Would you echo similar sentiments as Eden here?
Yeah, similar, but without the saviour complex. Because before I went to uni, I was raised Catholic, but outside of going to mass on Sundays because I had to, I wasn't really that interested. And then so when it came time to going out with girls, I just never even thought about that aspect of things. I just thought, like, if I like you, like, go out with you if we have a good time kind of thing. And that, like, morality or anything like that, it didn't really come into play for me before university. But then when I got to university, like, the tables kind of turned, because obviously you go from, I moved away from home. I went to Guildford.
Oh wow, far away.
That's where I went. So, but it kind of shifts from...
Good idea.
Oh my gosh, she loves that.
You can carry on.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just too caught up in her eyes. That's it.
What about Horse and Here's a Who? Have you seen that?
Oh, that one's amazing.
That's a great one. Do you? I like that too. That's a good shout.
But it's also... Mama, I like me.
You like Fire Sun? So that's a good...
Yeah, do you mind, if someone gets in a bad mood, do you mind me starts crying?
No, but...
Actually, that's scary. Okay, I think we have a unanimous decision. Yeah. So we will put that.
had to make the choice, right, I'm either going to take my faith more seriously as, like, no one's telling me to go to mass, no one's telling me to pray kind of thing, or I'm just going to chuck it. And obviously, my mum and dad raised me right, and so of course I never chucked the faith. And then, but when that switch was flipped, and after a couple of other secular women who I'd been going out with, I kind of came to I feel like you naturally come to the conclusion where you think, right, okay, I'm actively going to look for a Catholic partner who is potentially going to be my spouse.
Yeah.
Just because of things like morality, you realise how important that is in a relationship.
Also about kids, you know, like that's something that you have to kind of think about as well. It's like, do I think that person would be a good father or mother to my future children? I think that's a really important question to ask as well.
You sound like you passed each other's pretty stringent tests, yeah?
I had a checklist when I saw him the first. I was like, right, come and tell me about this and tick it off, and then we'll work on that. I'm joking, no.
Work on that?
Yeah.
Please. I was a perfect specimen. There's nothing to work on.
Eden, I know your old man, and he's someone I'd say is like, you know, a great dad and a serious Catholic. Was he right on it? Was like, look, you need to be careful of guys. You need to check this guy out. Was he fishing for questions off you? Or was he just like, off you go?
Dad has always been.
Did you know what you were like? I'm sure he did.
Yeah, yes, but my dad has always been very much like, oh, you are an adult. You make the decisions. If you ask me for help or advice, I'll give it to you. If not, I'm not going to say anything. Which is really nice.
Cool dad.
Yeah. So he's kind of been very chilled out about everything. And if there has been concerns, he might raise them with me privately, very calmly, and that's been great. He had a plethora of concerns about Thomas, as you can imagine. I'm just kidding. No, he didn't have any concerns. He liked Thomas from the first go. Fantastic guy, yeah, fantastic.
Like that. Yeah.
That is important. Having your dad pleased.
Yeah,
and having your mum pleased.
That's right.
It's fun, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're kind of like the guardian of the...
Yeah, of the galaxy.
Do you know what? It's actually quite funny because when it came time for Eden to meet my parents, it happened in a way where I didn't actually have to introduce her at all. Like when she met both my parents, I wasn't there. So remember I was saying about when we went I met Eden at the Afternoon for Life. Obviously my mum organised that, so she ended up picking her up at the train station before I'd even got there. So then she had met her, I didn't have to introduce her, and then my dad, where did my dad meet you?
It was after the youth conference. His dad came over and was like, oh hi, I'm Thomas's dad. And I was like, hi.
Thomas's dad, remember the name.
Is your mum happy about how quickly you moved, or was she like egging you along each way? Come on, it's always good.
Moved away from home?
No, get it on with Eden.
Oh, yeah, well, when it came time for me when I actually sat down with my parents and said, look, I think I'm actually going to marry this girl, I'm going to ask her to marry me, my mum was like that, well, we actually had that written down as a prediction for 2021, because they write a list of things that they think are going to happen at the start of the year for that year, 2020. She fully expected it and thought, right, yeah, it's about time.
And then... Did you go and see Albert?
I actually drove all the way down from Dundee to Croydon in the car, and it was probably the most nerve-wracking journey I've ever, because that's eight hours in the car and all you're doing is thinking about that kind of things. So I went down and then I gave it like a couple of days just spending time with Eden and her family and all that, and then it got to like the third day or the fourth day or something, and I thought, right, okay, today's the day. I'm gonna ask him. That's it. He was outside and he's quite into like all his like
He's
sort
done
of
so much DIY
woodwork
lockdown.
and DIY and all that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out to him. I was like, oh Albert, like, can I chat to you for a minute? Just want to talk to you about something. And he's like that. Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'm just gonna finish this up. And he was just well in the zone. So I thought, okay, best not to bring it up now while he's just in the zone. A couple hours went by and I was like, okay, right, I need to build up the courage again.
Did you know this was happening at the time, Eden?
Yes, kind of.
You're a bit like, Thomas, are you asking my dad soon? or
Yeah, yes, I was. No, it's funny because I would like to say no, but being the person I am, I've got quite an outspoken personality. Whatever I'm thinking, I'm kind of like, do you know what? I'm just gonna say it. And so yeah, I was like, come on then, like, what's going on? A couple times, but I don't think I was too bad, was I?
No, I actually don't think that you were like that at all. I had actually decided so I had done that and used that as process on whether it was right for Eden and I to get married and blah blah blah. Like by the end of it, I was so set on the decision to ask her to marry me, blah blah blah. And so that's what made me the decision kind of things.
So how did you ask Albert?
So let's get back to that. So a couple more hours went by, and he was sat in the living room. I think he was watching telly or something. Again, it's one of these situations where I don't want to interrupt the guy's like peaceful time. He's just had a hard day of DIY, like, and I'm interrupting him again. But I said, can I chat to you? Blah blah blah. I asked him, and he was like, yeah, go for it. Yeah, sure, pretty much. And then nice one. I think I worked myself up a little too much over nothing.
Yes and no, you've got to be ready just in case they've got some
In
questions
case,
to go
yeah.
back, and say, what about this? What about this?
I had a full-on script ready in my head.
But you didn't have to use
But
it.
didn't really have to use it then.
That's good.
That's it.
You'd sort of probably been doing it in your, like, how you'd come with Eden and how you'd been behaving around the family and all of those things. He would have been summing you up. Do you mind we got a tummy in? Rupert, unfortunately your shoulders and a bit of your back is dry.
Okay, now. Okay, now you're ready. I don't like shoulders. Stop! Okay, that's enough.
It was very little. It looked a bit like a fish down there.
I call it my little fish. It's not. It's tiny. Wait, is that real car? Yeah, it's
Hey Hugo, did you see Lonnie's cup?
Wow.
You should try it out someday.
Hey guys, can we build a dam?
The dam.
I think it's gonna take a while. No, Audrey, that is something.
See, when Thomas and I first started going out, he was doing music full time. When he finally realised that he was serious about me, he was like, oh, well, maybe I should actually get some income. So he went out looking for jobs, and obviously, like, he found a really good job and everything like that. That was fine. But I think that raised some concerns with my mum, because obviously, like, I'm starting to go out with this guy. He's doing music, which, yes, that's great, but unless you go big, it's very unlikely you're gonna, like, make a lot of money.
And you chose to step up, Thomas.
Yeah.
Or do that, and to do that, And sometimes there is those things before we join these two, make this alliance. So you asked Albert maybe one weekend. When did you ask Eden?
I asked Eden a little bit of time after that.
An hour?
A month?
Like 1
Little
minute.
bit.
I'm joking. So he asked me out he asked me to marry him in October 30th last year. And the reason why is because we had then discussed, so before the actual official proposal with the ring and everything, we had discussed doing marriage engagement preparation classes with a priest. So what we did before we actually got officially ring engaged is we did 3 months of every week meeting up with a priest to go through pre-engagement preparations, which is super unheard of. I know it sounds so weird, who does that? But we really wanted to like make sure we're doing everything by the book, we were doing everything right. We were really kind of listening to what we think, you know, like our vocational call, whether or not it was the right thing to do, because it's a massive commitment. And so we
How
did
did you
that
know about
for-
doing this?
well, the priest in
He's actually
Dundee,
suggested it.
Father Ninian. So after the pre-engagement prep, we got engaged, like for real, with the ring, the proposal, everything like that.
So then did you know when he was going to do it because you had so much
Oh
preparation?
yes, actually, but I didn't know the day. So I
Okay,
knew
fine.
after the pre-engagement preparations finished, which was actually on the feast date of our patron saint of our relationship, Saint Raphael. Great saint, by the way, massive shout
When's his
out.
feast day?
But in the old rite, it's the 24th of October. So we finished our marriage prep on the 24th of October. Now, the pre-engagement prep, I keep saying it's marriage prep. I thought he would propose like the weekend after or something like that because we were done. Come on, let's hurry this up. But then he surprised me when I was sick on the Friday and when I was working, and he did propose.
So just before that weekend?
Just before the weekend.
Oh.
So he took the afternoon off work and came down and made it very lovely.
Well done.
And then
Oh God, just engagement prep, worth it, enjoy it.
Oh, the engagement-
It's always the time.
pre-engagement prep, no, absolutely. It was like super good. It was really good at helping us discern. It was really good at helping us get a feel for what the actual marriage prep was going to be like. Also build a relationship with the priest. Any questions we had, like he was there. It was so good.
It was like a set
Yeah,
program.
so it was actually a marriage prep program, but it was really long. So it's like a traditional marriage preparation program. So he just started it off as a pre-engagement course, and then basically any questions we had, any things that we were speaking about, and a lot of topics that come up like with like arguments. You know, how would you respond in an argument? How would you do this? Stuff that we could like relate to and stuff like that. Not that we ever argue, but you know. And so yeah, it was really helpful, and I would definitely recommend it to people. It's not heard of. Lots of people are like, what the heck is that? Like, why are you so weird? But I mean,
The other thing is, an opportunity comes about, grab
yeah,
it.
grab it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, girls! Right, out the room. Just
Don't edit
drink
that
it.
out.
Have the whole thing. There goes my calm. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just prepared us
absolutely.
really well.
The only thing it probably didn't mention was how much mess your husband leaves behind him, but
Anchor.
It's so refreshing and wonderful and hopeful to see a gorgeous young couple who has decided to take that Catholic route, like the Catholic route for their relationship, before they're married, when they're married. It's not impossible, and actually it's for more, it's not for less.
yeah,
It's so easy to think like, oh, it's,
totally.
you know, the Catholic favours and the rules, they're just cutting things away.
Yeah.
Not true.
Honestly.
It's almost like with our children as well. No, you can't have chocolate for dinner every day, but actually it's for more. So you've got more amazing things in your life, more
Yeah.
happiness and more,
And
you know.
even just like the complete contrast, the complete difference between like from before we were married to now after we're married, we really did try to be as strict as we could, set as many boundaries as possible. And like I remember sometimes Thomas wouldn't even like hug me. Sometimes he'd be like, do you know what, like today I'm just not gonna hug you. Is that okay? Cool, right, fine. And it's kind of like, what? But then you think about it, it's like that's flown by like that, and now we're married, and like we don't have to do that anymore, and we're so much happier for it because we know that we respected the commitment of chastity before we were married.
I love that.
that's it.
Time does go.
Yeah, honestly.
Yes.
And I think about all those times that, oh, you know what, like that was just it seems so difficult at the time. Like this is the most horrible thing. I'm never gonna be married. Why isn't he proposing? Why aren't we engaged? But now it's done. That's it, and we'll never get that time back. So yeah.
Yeah, and actually it's so special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking that when we got married. Actually, that time was so special.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Take it for granted. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What I did anyway.
Thank you so much for sharing with us and being so generous with your story. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all of you who are supporting us. Please share this, show it to your teenage girls and boys and anyone you think might benefit from it. Pray for us, pray for these gorgeous newlyweds. And if you're enjoying the channel, please consider supporting our work and donating. Thank you so much. God bless.
help him out, help him.
Oh, Ruby.
What's up with him?
His eyes burning.
Is it 'cause he's cold? Oh, I know, help him, Lonnie, help him.
Someone try and stand still. Sure, good you say to that.
You know what it is? He's playing for his cold.
Help the poor man up. Help him up.
Sorry, Hugo, it was so funny because everyone was laughing so much.